ladies and gents. Welcome back to another Engineers Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Kareems here, who's Director of Engineering at an organisation called BetterUp. BetterUp are another mission-led business to come and join us. Essentially, what the business do, they're an online coaching and leadership development platform, combining and harnessing AI tech, behavioural science, but also using individual mentors and one-to-one coaching sessions. And we've got some really interesting topics that we're going to uncover today. Got a big smile on your face, Kareem. Transitioning BetterUp's product into Europe, obviously being founded in the US, and some of the challenges with data sovereignty. And I think that's going to be a really interesting topic to explore. I love these regulation and compliance challenges around data, but there's also some really interesting scaling challenges that we're about to uncover. So, Kareem, first and foremost, big thanks for coming to join us. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for the intro. And super excited to be here. Thank you for hosting me.
Pleasure. Before we dive into BetterUp, talk to us a little bit about Kareem's background, and share with the audience who you are.
Sure. I'm originally from Egypt. I actually started my career when I was 14, building my own startup. This is how I kicked off my career. I built later on like 4 other startups, so into the five startups overall, serving different markets between the US, Dubai, and Egypt. Diverse product offering between online debating website, which was a big hit back in the days, e-commerce, and online chatbots. And then in 2017 moved to the Netherlands and joined a couple of Dutch companies. One of them was Booking.com and Impraise, which actually was acquired by BetterUp. And recently, almost a year and 2 months ago, I joined BetterUp. My craftsmanship is backend. I always have been a backend developer, but slowly throughout my career, I definitely was more excited about management, and this is where I started following my aspirations there.
Good for you. So you've always had that entrepreneurial spirit then, from your travels and joining startups or fast-growing businesses?
Yes, I was always I didn't know what's actually entrepreneurship mean back then, but I definitely was super excited about like having this idea and turning it into reality, and going through all the challenges, and fixing our customers' problems. That was always a passion of mine since I was young.
Yeah, I know from some of the work that BetterUp do, and I've obviously worked with them closely in the past. Talk to us a little bit about the values and the DNA of the business, because I think especially I can really feel it come forward when I talk to you, when I'm engaged in the BetterUp brand. And I know that's something that's really, really important for the business. So talk to us about the values and the DNA of the business.
Yeah, definitely. Our mission is to help everyone everywhere live their life with better purpose, passion, and clarity. Like, it's not just a mission. It's not just something that we put on the wall. It's really in our culture, right? Our high impact behaviors, which we really leverage every day and we use them in all our conversations. It's around impressing yourself, right? Making sure that wherever we are walking the talk here. So we are also, as BetterUppers, we are going through a transformation ourselves. So we are providing our customers what we call a human transformation platform, which is basically building software to help to impact human behavior. But also as BetterUppers, are we also going through this transformation? And that's what's super exciting about the culture of BetterUp. And that's why, going back to my career, what got me excited to join BetterUp, because my mission from the beginning was enabling everyone around me to grow and discover themselves. I always hired students. That was my mentality in my startups. And then, finding a company that does that as a service was super exciting.
Yeah. Explain in a little bit more detail some of the products or the offering of BetterUp, so the audience has some clarity, because I think that would be really valuable for them to understand.
Yeah, definitely. So we have multiple interventions, multiple products. But we first started with district coaching, and we actually introduced the concept of district coaching, right? In the days, it was like coaching was around like this boring executive coaching where you hire, you rent an hotel and you come together in a room.
Yeah.
And that was, the typical coaching back then. We introduced the concept of digital coaching. And as we are like a blue ocean believers, blue ocean strategy, which is a very core also into our blood as BetterUppers. And as we introduced that, like we started, yes, we definitely want to help everyone everywhere, but we also started looking where can we make the biggest impact. And this is where we started first on B2B. So our main product today is around providing digital coaching for professionals all around the world. We're supporting many of the greatest brands in the world,
Yeah.
and helping leaders maneuver the way through the daily challenges at work. We're also keeping in mind what we call the whole person model in the background, right? Yes, you're a leader, but you want to be a thriving human. So how can we make sure that whatever software, whatever coaching we're doing, whatever AI we inject in the middle and augment, takes that into account?
Yeah, I think it is a really intuitive platform. I think the evolution of AI will naturally advance what the platform can do as well, which I think is really important because the recyclability or reusability of content, the engagement that you can also have training initiatives through that platform. I can imagine I can just foresee how AI can really propel what BetterUp can go and do and how it can actually serve some of the customers.
Yeah, definitely. AI is a core part of our business. It's a core pillar, right? Science also is another one, right? So when you start combine science and technology, then you definitely do AI, right? So we have a lot of PhDs and a lot of psychologists and professionals that are experts into human psychology. And we're all seeing definitely the move also, like there is a move around chat GPT and definitely how the world is definitely moving there. But overall, it's definitely leveraging AI to provide the right intervention at the right time, right? It's personalizing it also, right? It starts with just choosing the right coach, right? As we understand you, as you do so assessment at the beginning, it's still a human in connection. Are we giving you the right coach, right? If not, we learn also from that and make sure that the second recommendation is the right one. But also as you go through your coaching experience, and both of you and your coach start inputting some information about how the conversation is going, we start leveraging that also back to bringing it back to our machine models and start up leveling this experience by enabling the coach or also enabling the member to go through like a self-learning experience.
Yeah.
So definitely AI is a very core part of it.
Yeah. It's dual-ended self-learning. That's what's quite cool.
Yeah.
That's what's quite cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I wanted to explore how the business culture DNA bleeds into some of the engineering culture. I'd be really interested to explore how that happens or if that happens.
That's a very good question. Definitely, it's one team, right? Like Alexi, the CEO, he has this example that also resonates with me. Like, he says you cannot cure business, you cannot cure cancer if you don't know what's cancer, right? So if we are as engineers, if we are into the ones that focusing on the how, right? The engineering R&D, we need to understand really what's the what's the job to be done, what are the challenges of our customers. So definitely we need to blend this and make sure there isn't any gaps. And there's a lot of the business mindsets that we try to implement on the engineering. So like as I mentioned, Blue Ocean strategy is a big part of that, and we try to bring this into our engineering culture also as well. It's like, what can we do differently, right? Is it just following the trend, right? It's just seeing what's the fancy technology out there, or is like okay, what can we do that really fits our use case and can decrease the cost and provide a bigger value to our customers. But also that having common high impact behaviors, as I mentioned in the beginning, and making sure that this also is translated for every function. So when we say, like one of our high impact behaviors, do less, live more. That's one of our biggest high impact behaviors, right? That's when you implement this on the engineering side, there's a lot to think about, right? It's like the best, thing you can do is actually no code. If there's impact, then, you should go there, right? But also if you're implementing today, if you're going for a short solution today, but you don't have an eye on the future, then you're not actually living more. So there's definitely a caveat to that, but making sure that everyone has this mindset. And that's why our onboarding experience is very unique, right? Regardless of what job you applied for or got accepted for, everyone goes through a 1 month intense onboarding experience, just understanding the business, not your role, nothing, right? It's just your business. And making sure that what's like, we have this common question for everyone: what's your job at BetterUp? Make the company win.
Okay.
Right.
I like that.
So that makes, that's how we do it at BetterUp. Yeah.
What's that 1 month onboarding process like?
Ooh, it's a lot of learning. Like, I didn't go through it. 1 year ago I went to the old one. We like a few months after I joined, we implemented a new one. So and it shows a new hiring onboarding program is very around like making sure that everyone goes through this transformational journey. So there's a lot of books that we send out to all our employees around like experience economy. What like the that's very important. Positive psychology. So books like Positive Advantage, books like Business Conscious. Right, these are books that everyone reads, and then everyone goes through a series of what we call quests. Right, you group together and you start following a quest and trying to learn and unlearn. More importantly, that's also something we talk a lot about. It's not just learning, but also unlearning, right? And getting ready for your mission, after that. And we believe this is the time where everyone is the most malleable. So that's why we really make sure, it's an intense learning journey. And this also fits our third high impact behavior, which is work to learn.
Yeah. I think in actual fact, I've spoken about this so many times on the podcast. If you're in a consumer based business and you're in a position where you can really learn what the product does for customers, you will naturally be able to engineer better solutions, because it's almost like the empathy for the product just bleeds out of you, because you know what it's like to use BetterUp or insert A, B, and C company, because you've been a user, right? So I can imagine
Yeah.
if going through that onboarding, that's what some of that process would look like as well. That is really valuable to come back into a product team and be quite consultative about, this is how I feel about the product, this is why I feel it's beneficial for people.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it also contributes to what we call distributed autonomy, right? It's like we like in a very high paced environment, right? If we want to make sure everyone's focused on the right things and moving the entire company forward, then you need to make sure everyone understands the why. And then as extreme owners, we jump in and focus on the how.
Yeah.
So definitely this is very important for us and key for our success.
You sound like Simon Sinek, everyone understanding the why.
Yeah, it's important. It's if you don't understand, then
Of course it is.
yeah, you should pause. You should seize all efforts. That's my opinion. If you don't know why, don't act.
No, I agree. You should know the why. You're spot on. I'd be really keen to uncover some of the engineering challenges, particularly transitioning a product into Europe or a new continent comes with its own challenges centered around data. We're going to explore that, but also scaling a business and what that actually means technically. I think there's some quite cool things to uncover. So, can you talk to us from, I guess, really from point A, the challenges around data sovereignty of what did you think you needed to solve, what was different, and where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of going back in history, or more of context. So BetterUp as a company was founded like 10 years ago in the US. It was mainly focused on the US market in the last 8.5 years. Although we had global partners and global members, but it was still mainly focused on the US region. Towards the end of 2021, as BetterUp went through a strong round of growth cycle, we made a conscious decision to expand to Europe. Right, we saw a lot of demand, and it was time for us to go beyond the US and start expanding in Europe. As we started exploring the challenge there, the biggest part on the technical side was around most of our code is in a monolith, and it's hosted in a US cluster, right? So in my previous experience as we read online, like usually it's just moving from one region to other. It's as simple as like scaling horizontally. Why don't you just, build a new European cluster, mainly infrastructure work, and that's it. And then, you're done. However, what's unique in BetterUp's product is that we have a persona that exists across regions.
Okay.
So think about it like an Amazon model, right? Amazon in Europe, every country has its own Amazon. Mm-hmm. So that's the easy part from a member experience. But think about if there's the supplier that sells the product and sells across multiple clusters, then you need to have a different tool for that, right?
Okay.
So when we started exploring the European regulations, and this is where we actually kicked off the European team and acquired Impraise in Amsterdam. We found that GDPR is a big thing here in Europe, right? And all our customers asking us they want the data to stay in Europe. They want the member data to stay here. So that's easy from a member experience. But then how would that impact the coach experience that can operate between the US and Europe? So from there, we started, understanding, okay, it's not just an infrastructural, quick lift and that's it. We're ready to go. It's more of like, okay, we need to think deeper. How can we, smoothly scale this experience, this coach experience across the cluster without stopping the machine? That's always the hardest challenge because you're still going under huge pressure of growth, right? And demand and product, scalability and you need to make sure that everything goes well, but also tackling this challenge. So after a lot of brainstorming and offsite and thinking and making sure, okay, what's the do less, live more? Again, that's back to BetterUp's culture, mindset.
Yeah.
But also how can we impress ourselves? We started recognizing that, okay, this is an opportunity to also impress ourselves and look ahead. Okay, we need to scale further. This is an opportunity to really get things in order. So we started making a couple of big moves around, okay, in Europe, we need to migrate to AWS. In US, we had a Heroku cluster.
Yeah.
Looking forward, this is where we believe this is the right mindset. Obviously, also, this is a fast track ticket, or as we call it, to distributed systems. So what's the right strategy in terms of systems to extract, especially around the coach persona? But more importantly, how can you tackle today's needs? And this is what the do less, live more mindset, right? It's like, how can you tackle today's needs to overcome high operational burden and further scale in Europe and then fix, all the other problems later on. And this is where we invested heavily into switching our models to adopt into a multi database strategy.
Yeah.
So we started moving from a local Postgres database in the US into introducing another what we call centralized Amazon Aurora, leveraging Aurora and its global replication. And this is where we started moving some of the data that can exist in a global manner, right? Like the coach data and so on, to this database. And eliminating any operational overhead for now, enabling us to expand further in Europe, and then slowly building APIs on top of that. So this was mainly I would say, the biggest investment for big part of the platform org last year.
How long did that take? And in a situation like that, how do you actually map out that technical strategy? Because it seems like there's a number of different variables that you're balancing. So, how do you actually balance that, map that strategy out, but also think about the priorities of the business?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So let me first answer how long did it take. So the I would say in total, I would say like the bringing up the European cluster, and doing the data extraction, those other minor features around like account lookup, right? There's also more complexity on it. Like you have a mobile app now when a user tries to log in,
Yep.
which cluster they should be routed and so on. So there's other capabilities that were built around that, but it took around 6 to 8 months. That's in terms of how long it took. So how do you balance that? That's a great question. So again, first of all, understanding the why. What we discussed.
Yep.
What's we have a very strong. We invest heavily into making sure not just everyone understands the why, but making sure there's capabilities that force the why or forces everyone to move in the right strategy. Right? Like this is going back to Martin Rogers' framework. Right? It's like every strategy needs to have a capability part to ensure that you're moving forward in the right direction. So at BetterUp, we have this culture around or framework called TPS, trees, plants, and seeds. We love nature, right? So we try to represent that and also in our strategy. We basically say, okay, these are the trees. These are the things you need to focus, put 70% of your time on. These are the plants where you put 20%, and these are the seeds. So when we look at that, we try to say, okay, what are the priorities? Where can we make the biggest impact on moving it on the trees while maybe making small investments into the plants and seeds, and then deferring the rest later.
Yep.
So we had to step aside of the work. We had a couple of offsites. We started by building a technical vision. Where do we want to go beyond this year, right? What's our blueprint in terms of architecture design?
Yeah.
And then for every component, what's the threshold that we say, okay, this is the time to invest in?
Yeah.
It's a big lift, right? We don't want to go into like endless migrations.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the threshold where we say, okay, this is the time for it? What questions we need from our cross-functional partners, from sales, from field, from wherever, that can help us answer this threshold. And then from there we say, okay, this is the time to invest in. And this is a multi-year plan. We just completed like the first milestone of it, last month. And now we are moving on as we get more signals from the business on like, okay, this is becoming a priority or not.
Yeah. I love the 70-20-10 analogy, but I also love the multi-year plans of, I can just imagine in those system designs or technical strategies, there's so many things to consider. There are scaling challenges in 1-2 years' time that you're thinking about, where you have to actually incorporate, let's just say in your case, maybe new countries or territories into the platform. Are there different payment services or whatever it might be? I just find it fascinating thinking about how multifaceted it actually is and how tough that must be to be at that point and think about where do we want to be in 3 years' time.
Yeah, prospection is hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super hard. But we believe that we understand fully the value of it. We also understand if you don't have a roadmap, someone will give it to you, right? So
Yeah.
this is why I tell my teams, right? So you need to have a strong opinion, especially when you're on the platform side and you're like 2 steps away from the real customer value. And then the thing that I actually learned also by heart throughout my career is even if you're doing engineering work, you need to find a way to monetize that effort, right? If that's I think that the key like to the success of a platform in migration. If you can turn it into a money conversation, then I think then you can understand, okay, is this the right time to invest? What are the signals from field and how does it relate to it?
Yeah. Okay.
And that's super hard, of course.
I like that. I'm going to take that line as a snippet and I'll be recycling that. I love that one. What do you think one of the biggest technical challenges was? Because I know we spoke about some things in there, and I know moving out of Heroku into AWS was one of those, and how we've spoken about that offline. Would you say that scenario or any other scenario?
As the biggest challenges, technical challenges
Yeah,
we're facing today or last year?
last
Um,
year.
yeah. Um, I don't think so. No, I would say Heroku to AWS migration is pretty much straightforward, right? Again, I'm sure some people won't like that, but there's a lot of examples on how folks have done that, either in the company or outside, in the tech scene. Like there's a clear path,
Yeah,
right? And you need to Dockerize, you need to use the Kubernetes, you need to, make sure you have maybe a load balancer and on all the migration plan for data and maybe a timeout, whatever. It's clear that the components are clear. I think, again, from my perspective, the biggest challenge on the technical side is actually not the craftsmanship, it's the mindset, right? And I think that drives the decision on the how. Given the enormous growth of BetterUp in the last couple of years. 2 years ago, the engineering team was 22.
yeah.
Today, we're already above 150,
Wow.
right? So that's a sudden change. It takes time for people to just understand. Oh, it's a different reality, right? And when you maybe go a step deeper, you find that there's a lot of gaps around processes and capabilities that might impair all your work or impair the progress, right? It really slow down the progress. Like things we faced last year, or one of our biggest challenges last year, it's like you have a big monitors, a very few servers are extracted, and how would you define ownership? Ownership and accountability now becomes, as you go through this, out of the explore state to expand state.
Yeah.
If you don't have this strong mindset of ownership and accountability and making sure that everyone, again, back to BetterUp's high impact behavior, extreme ownership, you understand, the how well your systems are performing, then it's very hard to go through the next phases because it will get harder and harder and harder, right? So one of our biggest investments on the capability side last year, as we were doing all the other things, was around building a capability to make sure that we can define systems in our monolith,
Yeah.
in our unstructured monolith. That we make it also clear, right? Because you can go into like Shopify's model around like maybe modelizing the monolith. If you already have clear separation of concerns, then that's great. It's easy. But with an unstructured monolith, how can you start there, defining the right systems, making sure that these systems have SLOs? Like defining SLOs on a monolith per system is one of the hardest challenges, in my opinion. And we invested a lot of effort last year into that and making sure we have the right tooling. And then from there we have the right base, right? So when you want to start investing in modularization, or you want to start investing in extraction, or you even go through another round of like lit scaling, you are ready for it.
Yeah. I think I've picked up quite a lot about your engineering culture just in these last couple of minutes, and it probably does relate back to your why. And does this have monetary value to our engineering? And you talk about the mindset over the technologies, as in, I can imagine growing from 22 to 100 plus. It's about, how do I coach people on the right mindset and do things the right way, as opposed to, how do I coach people to learn Kubernetes, as an example. That's not going to solve our problem. This is going to solve our problem. Mindset, processes, engineering practices, maybe, or maybe our vision.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's again, do less, live more, right? Every step every as an engineer, this is what I tell my team, is like every step we take today is a step forward towards our mission, right? It's not a step forward towards like making our systems better. It's not a step forward to make like your manager happy. No, it's a step forward to make an impact on a human being.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is very special for a BetterUp. It's like we have a very strong mission, but we also have folks who came in that are very committed to that mission, and also folks with a star players that with a great experience. This combination of three things or three principles, I think, what's excited me to join BetterUp, and
Good.
also what I think is making us in a leading position.
Good. Expanding into new territories presents its own challenges, and we always wanted to cover off data sovereignty, data laws. So, talk to us about some of that expansion. I know we've touched on a couple of elements, but that expansion and what data laws and examples you've bumped into and how you navigate them.
Yeah, so for Europe, it was definitely GDPR
Of
and
course.
data sovereignty. These are two different regulations, right? But they still have a lot of overlap. What's like GDPR is more clear, I think, where data sovereignty, sorry, data sovereignty is more clear than the GDPR. Data sovereignty is just basically making sure that the partner data stays in Europe, right? It doesn't get processed in the US or in the EEA, European Commercial Zone. So this was the biggest regulation last year from the European side. Given that we have a lot of we have our main data lake is in the US, right? So that was also the challenge on our side. How can we make sure that European data doesn't got processed in Europe, and as we are building the machine models and making sure that our data lake has the right data. So this was definitely one of the regulations there. GDPR also, there's a lot of experiences that we have to change in Europe. And this was a unique experience for me because in my past, I was the opposite, right? It's like, we started with GDPR, we started in Europe, and then now we just want to expand to the US. And it's easy, right? You're going one level there in terms of like strictness. But that was an interesting challenge, is the opposite, right? You really need to up level your standard because the GDPR has a very high level there.
Yeah.
What's interesting also was actually not in Europe, it was on the other side, also in the US. We also work with the federal government.
Okay.
And there's one of the toughest laws, or at least in my experience, is FedRAMP compliance. Like this is a whole new world, and this impacted a lot on how our systems operate today and the protocols they use. Definitely, we try to isolate. So basically, our strategy is like, is this a leverage? Is this something actually we think can apply to all our customers?
Okay.
Then let's apply it. And then this is where, this is very unique to this kind of user. Then this is where we try to isolate it. But this was definitely a tough regulation with 300 checks that you need to pass through.
Wow.
And it's important for us because, yes, a big part of our data is talent development, but there's also, we have another side of BetterUp, which is mental health around care, what we call BetterUp Care. And this is health data, right? So this is where we definitely need to, make sure we always go for a best in class high level in terms of like data privacy and security.
Do you have a lot of automation, tooling, etc., built around some of this stuff to safeguard it?
We're getting there, right? It was like, as I mentioned, there's a lot of gaps, so you need to figure out what's the right thing to work on
True.
today. But we definitely, that's the mindset we have, right? It's like, if it's like, if you can avoid writing code today, then avoid, right? As it scales, as you bypass the threshold, then it's time to invest, right? And make sure definitely you have the right threshold there as you monitor and signal the market changes. But yeah, definitely that's the mindset.
Good.
Automation, tooling, and making sure we have the right capabilities there.
No, I bet.
And this year, that's a big part of the investment this year around identity. Like this is where we believe it's time to go to the next level as we go through this multi-cluster strategy. I would believe this is where we need to invest further into like our account management, identity, and access policies.
Okay.
And making sure there's strong automation there.
Nice. Okay. What else is on the agenda this year then?
A lot. So so in Europe, that's my teams are mainly focused. So identity is a big part. This is definitely a scope we own in Europe. There's also another one around video enhancements. So the video and messaging team is also in Europe. Um, for like we have really up leveled our experience. We want to make sure like our video tool is not like another Zoom or Google Meets, right? It's unique to BetterUp, right? It also takes the coaching mindset into it and has the right interventions there.
Good.
But also across the board, there's a lot of work done there around like the continuing the AWS migration, further enhancement into our products. Right, we're introducing 2 new products this year, or mainly a big one and enhancements on another one, and making sure we have a consolidated product. Like we're selling what we call triple play and a human transformation platform.
Yeah.
From the customer perspective, it's one platform, but from the background, there's multiple products supporting that.
That's cool. That's really cool. I'm 1,000,000% going to want to do like a volume 2 at some point coming into 2024, just to see where the growth of the business is, to see where the why's at or the mindset's at. And this is a moment that people wait for, just to understand more about the people growth really for this year, whether it be US, whether it be Europe. The business obviously has ambitions to do better this year. How will you be hiring and what will you be hiring over the course of this year for people listening?
Um, so definitely want to grow. Definitely, we have a lot of aspirations for this year, but also we are prudent given what's happening in the world, right?
Yeah.
So we're still hiring, we're still growing our teams, but we are also focusing mainly on our mission critical teams. So for example, in Amsterdam, we have 3 open vacancies right now. One for the video and sorry, 2 vacancies open for the video team, video messaging team, and one for a core platform team that is owning a lot of what I discussed today around distributed systems.
Yeah.
Um, and we're also definitely hiring for a couple of mission critical roles in the US. And that's the horizon right now. We're just shortening the horizon as we see how things are happening in the world. But definitely, once we feel more confident, I think it's time to, go to another round of scale. Then we will aim for definitely growing the team in a much faster pace.
Yeah, it's March 2023, and obviously there's news everywhere of what's going on. We don't necessarily need to name names, but lots happening over the course of even yesterday, last weekend. So there's challenges macroeconomically that I think companies are just being very wary of and seeing what happens. So that's totally understandable. I think mission critical hires that are really important for the health or operational health of a product or a business, go for it. But I understand that makes sense. For all people listening, careers sites will be below for people to have a look at, and Kareem's LinkedIn profile will be below. Like I said to you before, Kareem, I'm pleased we're here. It's taken us a good 4 or 5 months to get this
Yeah,
done.
took some time. We made it.
We made it. We made it. I'm
Yeah.
delighted. And
Yeah, same
we're
here.
going to be here early next year because we planned Jan, to be fair. So we'll plan for next Jan that we'll be here.
Can't wait for that. Yeah.
For everyone listening, like, share, subscribe, show your friends, come and talk to us. We want to share more stories around what teams and companies are building. That's the plan. That is the focus for engineers, the community. So we want to see more from that, or we want to see, or we need your support. Kareem, a big thanks to you. Thanks for being patient as well. We're finally here, like I said, but big thanks to you for coming to share the BetterUp story. What an unbelievable mission. I know how mission led you are inside of the business as well. And it was great to feel that today, but a huge thanks.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here today. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk more about our mission and our excitement towards pushing it forward. Really appreciate it. Looking forward for the next call, hopefully in a couple of months from now.
I agree. Next couple of months. And like I said, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks from Engineers. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no_. We've also got a website, which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.